Women to the Braveheart Women's Show. Today's show is part 2 of Braveheart Women Hear Us Roar. And we've got some beautiful roaring ladies in our audience today, as well as co-hosting with me. We have beautiful Sandra.
Hello.
And Sam.
Hello everyone, lovely to be back.
And Christine.
Hi everyone.
And Mira.
Hello.
And I'm Sharon. In creating the perfect strategy, we need to create the promised strategy, the strategy of being able to be in the moment. And the strategy that we are creating within the Braveheart Healing Center at the Ixtapa Healing and Training Center is a strategy associated with self-love, self-care, and most important, unconditional self-love. Unless you are willing to erase and replace those programs that we have been so inundated with as children and as adults too as well. And we come into this world as little spirit beings, and that little spirit is actually so willing to be in the moment, so willing to erase and replace everything that they learned because they're so in the moment. So they don't even remember what happened like 5 minutes ago because they're so in the moment. It's like, wow, so just keep giving me the information. And that's why it's so important as Braveheart women, when we're raising our children, that from 0 to 7, they are sponges. And we say that often. I know I said that often when I was raising my daughter, that she's just a little sponge just wanting to absorb whatever she possibly can absorb. Because she's erasing and replacing. That's what we need to do, because what we've been doing is we've been copying and pasting. So the copy and paste mode in regards to the programming that we have so been inundated with, the programming from 12 years of schooling. And they knew that 12 years was the number of years that it took to actually program us. So that then we became a copy and paste society. What do you think, Sandra?
Yeah, I think so. I think we get stuck in I can't. We get stuck in no, I just make a mess. And really what we're doing is repeating this over and over and over again. And we learned this at such a young age, just like Sharon explained, that we replayed it so often that we don't even hear those messages anymore. We just, we feel the anxiety maybe, or some of us are to the point of we don't even know how anxious we are. We just know that this is life. I'm just always going to feel this way. And no, I'm just paying attention. I'm just watching out. When really we're like a deer caught in the headlights and we're ready for trouble at every single second.
And that anxiety program, I mean, years ago, we have our adrenal system for a reason. Because if we need to jump out of the way of a car that's rushing towards us, or we need to race away from something that's endangering us, then we have that adrenal system that kicks in, that can actually give us that power that we need at those really specific moments. But what's happening now is that, and so years ago, or when we have those moments where we need to really kick in the adrenal system, then after that real danger is over, we can look around and we can say, okay, we're all good to go. Take some breaths, the adrenals relax, the drip of adrenaline stops, and off we go, because that real danger has subsided. But what's happening now is that all these false dangers, all these things that are being created within our own subconscious mind, which is part of the program. So somewhere along the lines, we've been programmed to try to believe that these fears are actually real, which is false evidence appearing real. And when that adrenaline dump starts kicking in, because that anxiety, like Sandra was saying, and these different stresses that are going on within ourselves, when the adrenals kick in and start dripping that adrenaline, that's creating inflammation. And that inflammation, that adrenal drip on false evidence appearing real, on anxieties that aren't really, they're paralyzing us, that aren't really real. I mean, we're not under any threat right now. We're sitting in this beautiful tent at the Ixtapa World Healing and Training Center with these beautiful women, and we're roaring. And we're not under any danger. So what we do is we think about all the things that could possibly go wrong, and then that adrenaline kicks in, and that drip kicks in. And that adrenaline drip, if we don't stop it right in its tracks, it will drip for like 3 days. And then we better be certain that we don't have another one of these paralyzing false fears that are flying into ourselves, because then we start the process again. And we become this inflammation nation because of the fact that we're continuing to drip that adrenaline. And that is just creating so much inflammation in our body. It's dehydrating us, it's contorting our tissues, it's binding us, it's creating scar tissue, it's creating displaced calcium, calcification in joints, scar tissue along incisions and different surgeries that we have, scar tissue within various organs, within various connective tissues, and we're just starting to contort and contract and constrict and to really block ourselves up. But really, it's all about misalignment. Any of these symptoms associated with these labels that the Western world has put on us, the so-called medical diagnosis, is all about a label to create a name so that then we live that disease. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I just going back to that, I really think that we're caught in that react and attack situation, and our bodies are feeling that the whole time. And I think the numbers are, we're finding these things like 17 times a day. We're getting these things that are, so you were saying you better not feel it within 3 days. It's like 17 times a day. So we're constantly feeding that adrenaline, and we're just stuck in that instead of being able to just relax and respond and observe, which is where we should be and where we can be if we use these tools and learn. So, and it's just really recognizing when you're in that state and finding practices that are going to help you come into your parasympathetic, into a rested state where you can actually heal and then see when you're reacting and attacking. So I think when you're in it the whole time with everything that's coming in from the outside, you don't even have an opportunity to actually see how much you're in that state, and it's really dangerous.
And that's a really important point that you made in regards to the tools associated with bringing us down into that parasympathetic state. And we all know what that's like, and myself including, is that I ran an anxiety program, and I know that now I can observe it. I can see when it's starting to flutter in, because my speech starts getting faster, and I get these little flutters inside, and I can feel it in my heart. And it's really beautiful because now I can observe it. However, it takes time and patience as we move ourselves a little bit further and a little bit further. This isn't all about the red pill approach. This is about strategies, baby steps. And how did these baby steps, how have they been working for you, Mira?
It's been working very well. I'm using, I guess, breathing technique. I'm using the belly button, which we're gonna be talking later. Using to being more, I guess, present. I guess listening to really nature and listening to the birds. Just feel life, because life is so beautiful. Once when you start feeling it, you go like, wow. I mean, yes. And we have been programmed since I was a child, really. And I didn't know better, so I thought that is a normal way, which is totally not. And once when I discovered the peace and being, I guess, present, I'm like, wow, I'm addicted to it. I love it.
Well, that's a better addiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Let's get addicted to that feeling of peace. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
It's lovely.
And it was so wonderful to watch Mira, because she ended up doing, observe Mira, when she was working through all of the courses, because you took the 3 courses back to back. And it was the whole life coach, and then the Wolf non-surgical, and then there was a few days break, and then there was another whole life coach with the Wolf non-surgical, and then she did 3 back to back. And observe her progression as far as how the subconscious mind was being rattled. And Daryl's brilliant at that. And at the World Healing and Training Center in Ixtapa, Mexico, the whole life coach changes people's lives. It changes people's lives and changes it so that then we can move from these programs and move into the present moment. And for myself too as well. And I would imagine for yourself, Christine. Yeah, that you've taken the course how many times now?
I've taken the course twice and I'm loving it. And I think the other important thing is we support each other. So we really hold the line for each other. And through holding the line for each other, we learn from each other. And I just think that's so powerful. I've learned so much from everybody here. It's so lovely.
And it's really wonderful to see these aha moments
Totally.
for individuals, because
Totally.
and as I sit up front with Daryl or wherever I happen to be in the room, and you can just watch people's faces or observe people's faces and just see how lights go on, and it's like, wow, this is really cool. And the struggles. We're working in a society of duality. There's these dual personalities that are going on within ourselves, and we cannot be creative when we're coming from the intellectual mind. We can only be creative when we're in the creative mind, and that's how we get connected to infinite power, infinite source, the energy, because we are energetic beings. And for me, it took a while to really kind of kick into that whole philosophy that we are vibrational beings, that we are made up of empty space, like 85% empty space, which is water, which carries frequency. And we better be sure that the frequencies that are coming into us emotionally, physically, spiritually, all the leaves, that they are of the highest vibration. And of course, nutritionally. Well, all that's left in our body after we consume the food is the vibration. So we need to look at those qualities within all aspects of our life, because the psychological creates the biological. We often look at it, the fact that, oh, I've got this little pain here, I better address this pain here. Well, really, the pain here was created because of the pain here, the blockage here. And as we open up those blockages, and as we look in the mirror and we can say the Braveheart oath, and we can truly look in the mirror and say, I love, honor, and respect you, then we can really make a difference. How did that work for you, Sandra, on the mirror work?
Yeah, the mirror work is incredible. And when I first got here, we didn't have a group office space just yet, so we were each just doing our jobs in our room. And I was in the bedroom and found myself in front of the mirror, and then sitting in that mirror for 8 hours and just little checks. I mean, I wasn't sitting there repeating the Braveheart oath all day long, but just to be in that mirror and to, have a little hesitation. No, 3, 2, 1, I got this, and just a slight check, and just to continually be feeding myself back. No, you're okay. You got this. You just have to breathe. I breathe. I connect to my spirit. All of a sudden, creative thought comes. I've solved the problem, or I've thought of a solution. And so, yeah, I encourage everyone to sit in that mirror, know your oath, and really feel it and recognize which words out of that oath you're having trouble with, and then just sit in it and just be okay with whatever's looking back at you. Be okay with it, and change happens a lot easier. We get this built up wall of nope, can't do the mirror work, can't do this, can't change, can't. We just need to interrupt that can't and turn it back into can, and you'll solidify it.
Can and I am. Fake it till you make it. I am healed, I am love, I am Braveheart, hear me roar. And that's what this is about. We're creating a community of Braveheart roaring people, both females and males. The females tend to be more prevalent within our community of Bravehearts. However, there's more males joining us all the time because it's very often the males have been, ruled in school to believe that they can't get in touch with their feminine side, or they can't get in touch with their feelings. So they wall them off, and it's sometimes very difficult for them to go there. But for us, it's about a global march, and that's what we're creating here. We're creating the strategies with the Perfect Day consultation, and you can go on to the docofdetox.com and you can look up the Perfect Day consultants and decide which one that you resonate with. And we just ended up, I believe Todd ended up just joining the group the other day. So we're adding more males to the group as far as consultants go. And so we're creating a global march of self-empowerment. And as I work more and more towards my self-empowerment, it just feels, I feel more solid and more solid and more solid and grounded. This is the important thing right now with what's going on in this global arena that we are being inundated with. We now need to find our grounding so that we can now connect with Mother Nature. And as women, we are more connected to Mother Nature because of our nurturing and compassionate side, because we do have the womb of life that resides within our body. And so that energetic component that vibrates up from Mother Earth is much more easily tapped into, but we've also been completely, what would you call it, suppressed in regards to our femininity. And that it now needs to be encouraged. And this platform that we have with the Braveheart Women's Show, and how Daryl is so supportive of the femininity, of the divine femininity. This isn't a feminist movement. This is a femininity movement. It's about gathering those qualities that we are so blessed to have, that our God-given nature and our divine creator, whatever we want to call that source, has given us. Because we are amazing human beings and we're meant to heal. We just need to have the properties in order to be able to do that. And Mira told me a story about her mirror work the other day. Yes.
My mirror work.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Well, I was doing, I guess, mirror work, and I ended up basically being like very serious. And I'm like, no, let's just have some fun, right? And I was going, I'm loved, I'm healed, I'm Braveheart, and as I'm saying this, I'm getting closer and closer. And then at the end, I go say, mwah! I kissed the mirror, and I'm like, what was that? I'm like, I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I often say that to when I'm following up with some of the consultations that I've done, and people are running these programs, and I can see it, and I'll just say to them, give yourself a kiss in the mirror. And it was funny, I've been saying that lately, and then Mira told me about her mirror work, Mira in the mirror, and there we go. It's what we need to do, kiss ourselves, because that's the best person that you can kiss every day. And so let's talk about the show today and what we're doing, because about grounding is about breath work. And we have our Braveheart breath work. And one of the most important things is to ground ourselves so that we can connect with our brain and our heart and create that connection, because we become so disconnected. And last week we ended up doing the breathwork demonstrations, and we started off with the belly button, because the belly button is really important, because the belly button is what's going to stimulate, and it's going to encourage our vagus nerve to be stimulated so that then we can go into a parasympathetic state. However, one of the most important parts of the breath work of going into a parasympathetic state is the breath work. And it's such a fundamental, and it's what we have with us every day, all day, and we've disconnected from it. And that's part of this heart, brain, abdominal connection. And some people refer to it as gut, but it's actually large intestine connection. And as we put one hand on our abdomen, right onto our belly button, and one hand onto our heart, with the Lionheart breathing, we actually connect the neurons that are being stimulated from having our hands on our belly button to the brain. So our heart is actually connecting to our brain. And then when we can connect like that, then we now can truly go into self-love and self-care. Has the breath work been really good for you, Christine, within your healing journey?
Absolutely, yes. I also just wanted to quickly comment about the mirror work, though, as well, because for me, when I look into the mirror, the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking right into my eyes, because that's the soul of you, and that's your inner child. And so I look in and I smile at myself, and I just kind of like play in my head sometimes with that before I start speaking it out loud. And that I find really helps to get me in the right frame of mind. It's kind of similar to what Mira's doing as well, really, but it works. And the breath work is really helping with me. Sam is helping me with the Pilates, and I find that the more I'm learning about the breath work and the different breath works that we do with the Pilates as well, it's really helping my body, for sure, for the healing. It's really good.
It's
really powerful.
It's
Very
really helping you
important.
connect, right,
It
to
is,
your body.
because I've
there
had
is-
trouble with connection.
Yeah, some disconnect, and the breathing and the grounding and the just taking your time, slowing everything down.
Exactly.
And yeah,
Yep.
it's amazing watching your progress. It's
And I'm
beautiful.
walking across the grass in my new place a lot. So I'm walking outside bare feet on the
Nice.
grass, which I really like to do, but hasn't been so easy. And now I can again, so
That's so
I'm doing it every
beautiful.
day.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's all about repetition. So as we
is.
start incorporating these strategies into our daily lives,
Yeah.
then they become part of our lives.
Absolutely.
And I see that Mary has a question about the angles and the order of the angles in which we do the belly button. Does it matter? Well, it's about the rotation. It's about going in clockwise position. So it does matter as far as going in the clockwise position. Does it really matter whether you start down at the rectum and start moving that way? Not so much. But what we're going to do, Mary, is we're actually going to do some hands-on, because we're going to do the ultimate pelvic activation squats. We're going to demonstrate those today. A few weeks ago, we were going to do those, and we just ran out of time. I can't remember, what else were we doing that day? Oh, we were doing the
We
clapper.
did clapping, and it was very interactive.
Yeah.
And there was loads of questions.
Yes.
So we literally just ran out of time. So we're
Yeah.
back for squats today. which
So
is
what we're
awesome.
going to do is find our belly button therapy tools, and we're going to, I don't know where, oh, there's one right there. Okay, so here is this beautiful belly button therapy. And he's got this little happy face on it, because that's what it's all about, smiling. When we smile, we change the world. Not only the world, well, we can't really change the world.
We change our world,
We change our
We
world.
change our
and then we
world.
can change a larger
That's right.
circumference.
And we're sending out that vibration, so that vibration then now can be engulfed, or it can start to entangle with other people's
Yeah.
energetic vibration. So when we go outside and we're all smiling and we come across somebody, they just smile back at you.
And even if they don't, you will still have smiled at them, and they might be having something going on in their world, which is fine. They don't smile back, but they will take it further on into their day. Like at some point, they'll feel that vibration that you gave them. So don't think it's wasted if someone doesn't smile back, because it's really not.
Yes. And if we smile, then we're automatically increasing our vibration. And that's what's so important, is that as we want to vibrate, like the song said, good vibrations.
Love that
Giving
song.
me excitation.
That's got to be the next one for the sing song.
That'll be the next song we say.
It's Friday. We might just break out and sing
Well,
song.
you never
people.
know, especially with this one here.
Yeah, exactly.
Had
Yeah,
a big
it's
Friday
good vibration
vibe
day.
going on
Yeah.
this morning.
Yeah, Sandra came bouncing out of the office this morning first thing, and I was like, "Whoa, she's into mischief today." And she's like, "What did you say?"
I said I got my Friday vibe on.
Yeah,
Mischief Friday.
she did. And you know what? It was so
Every
beautiful.
day should be this
That's
way.
right.
Right.
Exactly. And it was so beautiful because I felt it like right away. That it was like, and that is how important it is that we can affect others.
Yeah.
And I just felt it, and we weren't like 6 feet away. We were like 20 feet away, and I just saw her boink out of the room. I was like, "Hey, girl,"
That's so
and that's what it's all about. And we vibrate that level, and then we can push our dreams. So when we visualize our dreams, then we can actually say, you know what, I'm going to keep vibrating to this level, so that then I can open up all the blockages in here and in here, in all the areas of the body, and I can open up those blockages so that then I can now nurture that dream and I can keep moving towards it. And if you end up coming across low vibrational, I don't really like calling them people, but low vibrational energy that is associated with other individuals, and low vibrational foods, and then we got low vibrational thoughts because we get paralyzed in this fear thing or whatever's going on, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, I was doing like really good. It's like if Sandra came out doing her Friday vibe thing and I tripped her as she went by, you know, that would do a little bit of an interruption in that little vibe, right? But then
Unless I seen that and just skipped over top.
yeah, that's true.
Because it's magnifying, it grows, it's exponential on each other, right? You be going along, and all of a sudden someone sticks your foot out, you're like, got that, jump,
Be
you're
dancing
good,
over it,
right?
darling, right?
Yeah,
Because you're in the moment.
because you're in the moment, yes.
So smiling is key, guys. Is
In
keep
the moment.
smiling.
And just think, this starts from your breath. This starts
Yeah.
from doing just as little as 3 nice and easy breaths. And every one of us can do that no matter where you are.
Yeah, it'll put you into a parasympathetic state. So if you just hold one hand here or here, and then you just in for 6, diaphragmatic breathing, hold for a place of still point, and out for 7. And then, and in for 6, and hold, and out for 7. And within 2 or 3 breaths, you've already brought yourself into a parasympathetic state, which is a state of Zen. It's the state of healing. And that truly is the only place that we can heal, is in that state. Could you imagine all the energy that we're using when we're anxious and running around and just like being these busy bees that are just doing stuff, and sometimes we don't even know what we're doing, and at the end of the day, we're like, whoa, what a day.
Exhausted.
It's
And you think-
absolutely exhausting.
Yes.
How
It really is.
difference it makes, right? Because we went out for supper the other night, and
Yeah.
I was kind of like a zombie at the end of the evening, wasn't I, ladies? Right?
Yeah.
And change up the program, give myself some peace last night instead of run. Let myself end my day in a nice, peaceful way, and had a deep, wonderful, relaxing sleep. And then this morning, I was like, bam, I feel good. And this type of expression is not going to exhaust me,
Yeah.
right? Whereas, oh, I gotta think my way. I got a busy day. I'm working my butt off. Gee, no wonder I was exhausted by the end of the day, right? So,
Absolutely.
And
Anyway.
sorry, darling.
no.
And we encourage everybody to ask questions out there, and some of the beautiful comments from Alicia. Hello from Southern Illinois. I enjoy the live chats and the knowledge shared each and every time. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Alicia, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and this is all about the global march of self-empowerment, and where we can touch people all over the world.
And just showing you
Beautiful.
guys that this is possible as well, and that repetition is key, and we're all still very much a work in progress. I've been doing breath work for quite some time through Pilates and yoga, and I've got to a point now where, generally speaking, if I get anxious, that I just breathe deeply, and that's my natural go-to. That's what my body naturally does now. It wasn't always like that, and I had an alarm set on my phone to go off every hour to tell me to breathe. So there's little tricks you can do to really come into getting that repetitive, and then all of a sudden it will just be your natural go-to. So it is doable, just keep going.
Excellent.
And that's perfect, because of telephone tracking. It's
Yeah.
part of the Braveheart 12 loving steps, is that we can incorporate the telephone tracking into our lives so that we can take this beautiful love band and we can give ourselves a little kiss, and we can say 3, 2, 1, I've got this. And that is bringing us to that present
Yeah.
moment. And along with the breathing,
Yeah.
then we could take those breaths, and
Just
we
take those breaths.
can just now.
This is a great way to remind yourself as well, because one little tip about the phone, make sure your alarm isn't annoying, because that has the opposite effect. And also maybe change the alarm ring every now and then, so it's something different, so it still clicks you into your, just get used to it, So yeah, it's not.
And you're welcome, Jan, and happy birthday, Victoria.
Oh, happy birthday,
Yes,
Victoria.
we will sing it for you, but
Don't tempt us.
We can't get off topic just yet,
Yes,
girls. So
okay.
we'll remember in the
Exactly.
end. Okay.
So let's move to the belly button therapy, and then while we're doing the belly button therapy. Okay, we talked about the breathing, which is really important, the diaphragmatic breathing, which we ended up demonstrating last week. Because as children, as little spirit beings that are brought into this planet, onto this level, or this plane of existence, because it's all about energy, is that those babies, they're diaphragmatically breathing. Their bellies rise and they fall, and they rise and they fall. And that diaphragmatically breathing ends up filling the lungs full of the most amount of oxygen. And we need oxygen for the brain. We need oxygen for the cells, because oxidation or lack of oxygen creates dis-ease in the cells. So it's just basically out of alignment. And what happens as we become more institutionalized, and you take this little spirit and you start putting him into a chair in the school system, or you're saying, oh, I'm the boss and I've got authority over you, or you listen and you be a good girl or a good boy and you sit in the corner and you just be quiet, you do all these things. Well, now this thing starts to weigh down, because all they want to be is these little spirits just bouncing around, breathing their diaphragmatic breathing, filling their lungs full of oxygen, and just really having a great time. And then now all these little rules start to creep in and creep in. And then eventually they start to bronchial breathe. And I did a survey with a girlfriend of mine, and we figured like grade 3 or grade 4 is when those little spirit beings start to bronchial breathe. And they're only using maybe 20% of the lung capacity. So it's important that we do belly breathing in and out. So as we're doing these different therapies, like the belly button therapy, we want to incorporate the Lionheart breath, but we also want to make certain that we're diaphragmatically breathing while we're doing it. We want to teach our lungs to start expanding to their maximum capacity. When we're only using 20 to 25% of our lungs, well, there's 70 to 80% of our lungs that are kind of atrophying, and they'll collect toxins within them. And we know that it's all about the doc of detox. Let's get the toxins out, let's get the oxygen in, let's get the nice healthy blood cells in, let's get nutrition in, let's get high vibration in. Then we're just like, we're rocking and rolling, and we're turning back the clock.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
And also as women, we've gone through this whole thing where we're told to like hold everything in and suck it in to look a certain way, and we're not letting our bellies move and our rib cage move, and like you said, Sharon, it's all up in the chest, which then increases your feeling of anxiety, because that's where you breathe when you're under that fear state. So it's all just connected. So I want you all to just like relax your bellies and let it go a bit. It's really nice.
So Kim has asked for us to show the breathing again. I'm not sure in what respect, but I won't go into the cat and cow, but it's a really good way, the cat and cow, which we ended up demonstrating last week, to really get that diaphragm moving, because we want to unfreeze that most frozen diaphragm, that it's a muscle, right? So we want to actually expand it and contract, expand, contract. So what with the belly button, we actually want to pull it out. That's what the Buddha breathing is all about. We want to expand the belly and contract the belly. So as we're doing this, we're opening and we're squeezing toxins out of the cell, opening and squeezing, and really working those lower areas of the lungs. So with the belly button, we will demonstrate the actual like belly button and the breathing. And so you can just, when we'll end up doing like a really good video, that's a how-to video on the breathing itself. And so we will do that as well. And thank you for asking that, Kim. And we'll get better at this as we move along. And Victoria, you're welcome. So let's do the belly button therapy. It's nice to, whenever we do any kind of stretches, that we start off with the belly button therapy. Because the belly button therapy will actually increase our stretch by 25%. So when we start this off, so before you do yoga, or like Sam teaches Pilates, how are you finding it with Pilates?
It's definitely increasing the stretching ability. So you do the belly button first, and you just find that things just go a bit further. It's awesome. So
Exactly.
And it takes you into a relaxed state before you start. So then actually you don't have to spend quite so much time getting yourself there if you've had a stressful day. Just use your belly button therapy first, and then you can just move straight in.
So you can do the belly button therapy lying down first thing in the morning, which is a really good way to start your day, because we tend to jump out of bed and then all of a sudden the day hits us and we're like off to the races. So it's really a lovely way to start with the belly button and then incorporate your breathing, your Lionheart breathing. You could do it laying down, you could do it standing up, and you could do it sitting down like what we're doing here. So I'll stand up because then it's a little bit more, and you can sit down or whatever you want. I believe that I'm okay here, right, Yarek? Video crew, am I okay to stand up?
Should we all?
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to center the belly button, our little buddy, right in the middle of our belly button itself. And we want to do a nice, steady rhythm. We don't want to be, doing this. We don't want to drill a hole into our belly.
Yeah, no hole drilling, please.
Yeah.
No aggressive belly buttons, just
Yeah,
nice
no
and
hole
gentle.
And if there's a bit of tenderness within that region, which there very likely will be, first of all, we're stimulating over 60,000 nerve receptors. We're also stimulating the parasympathetic nerve. That there's the wandering nerve. It goes right from the female genitalia all the way up past the belly button, and it winds all the way up to the neck. It's really an amazing nerve. And this will stimulate it, and it will put us into a parasympathetic state, which is the state of calm. And Mira can probably vouch for that.
Oh my God, this is like a lifesaver.
Okay, so here we go. So we're just going, and we'll just go through the circuit.
And also, I just want to comment on, there might be scar tissue and stuff going on in here. So if you do feel some discomfort, just ease off a bit, but still gently start to pull those tissues apart. So this is working on the scar tissue and adhesions, especially for women, childbirth, and then any stuff that's been happening in your large intestines. Just take it easy, but don't stop just because you feel some discomfort. Just gently go around the edges of that.
Yeah, so because another program is that we're taught that as soon as we have pain, then that's not a good thing, and we need to stop.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, it was painful, or it was tender and I just had to stop. That's another program.
It is.
And we reach for some kind of pain medication because now we're in pain and we need to squelch that down because that's what they told me on TV.
And it also might not just be physical pain, you might feel emotional because this is where we were connected to our mother. We'll have anything that came from our mums stored in here as well. And so if you start to feel that discomfort in an emotional way, just take the breath a bit deeper and just allow any emotion to come out whilst you're working, because that's what we're aiming to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. And so then we want to go in a clockwise position. So if you think of the back of a clock that's lying on our and the face facing up to the ceiling if we're laying down, or outwards as we're standing up, so that we want to go in a clockwise. And the clockwise is really important because that is how the poop comes out of our large intestine, which is our colon, also referred to as our colon. And so it comes out of the small intestine, it comes into in through the ileocecal valve, into the cecum, up the ascending colon, around the hepatic flexure, which is this little bend, which lots of stuff gets stuck there.
Quite a tight little bend, that one.
What's that?
Tight little bend.
Yeah, tight little bend, yes. And then it comes over the transverse colon, and then around the tight little bend of the splenic flexure, so there's two little tight little bends, and then down the descending colon, in through the cecum, and then out to the rectum. So we want to encourage stimulation within all the regions of the large intestine.
Yeah.
And as we're encouraging that stimulation, and we're going into the cecum area, and then we just a nice rhythm as we're breathing. 6 seconds in, hold for a few seconds, and 7 seconds out. And it's beautiful. I mean, this is self-care. This is like getting connected. It's like, whoa, I feel something right there. It feels like something is, just needs to be opened up. And you really start loving your body and encouraging it to move back into alignment. And that's what this is all about.
Just be really gentle and just, send the breath to the area that is feeling uncomfortable. And I also like to, when I'm in a really good relaxed state, send just white light, just think healing light, healing love, and just gently let that area open. And if it feels odd, that's really okay. Just send love to the area. So we're going diagonally down towards the right hip, first of all.
Well, somebody had a question here. You guys can just keep with this. Make sure I don't miss any questions. Okay, let's see.
And we're finding
Actually, I didn't
nice
bring any.
rhythm.
I do. Oh, do I have my clapper? I don't think I have my clapper in here, Jen. I'll love to show you the clapper.
have a
Maybe
clapper?
somebody does. And I can't Okay, Kim mentioned I can't touch my belly button. No one freaks me out, makes me pass out. Interesting. Well, maybe you can just like massage it slightly first and just get connected. So there's something going on, Kim, with you, and it's an emotional connection, and most likely to your mother, because that's where we started our life.
You got some lavender. I think ladies really, their bodies really react well to lavender. So if you can't be touching it, then yeah, just do some gentle massage like Sharon said, and then throw some lavender essential oil in there and just love it up.
Yeah.
And just keep working at it.
Yeah.
I've had 2 clients recently like pull the most crazy face at me when I've suggested using the belly button, like whoa. and also I think you might have mentioned before, it's just palming, just gently palm your belly button with a nice oil, and then just very gently pat around and get the belly button area used to having you touch near it, and then you'll eventually be able to go in. So.
Yeah, so
Sometimes-
certainly try that, Kim. Go ahead.
Sometimes we've just dishonored our bodies so much that when we try to do these things, like clamping your belly button, and we've already been dishonoring ourselves for a while, the body's like, yeah, well, we can't trust you just yet. So sometimes we have to say, you know what? Hey, body, I'm sorry. I'm on task now. I'm here for you. And I know this isn't going to feel very good right now, but we're just going to be nice and gentle and literally talk to your cells, talk to your body. Part of your brain's going to be listening, your heart's going to be listening, and just keep moving forward.
And if you haven't, that's a really good point. Absolutely, and it's about the dishonor, and it's about the fact of the connecting to self, because we disconnect so easily.
Yeah.
And one of the, I don't know if you've done this, Kim, or not, but one of the a really powerful program is the Braveheart Emotional Intelligence Masterclass. And you can go onto the dock of Detox, and you can look up in the menu, and you'll see Masterclass, and you could sign up for the Braveheart Emotional Masterclass, and there's a coupon code called Braveheart Free, and you can go in there and you can start working those loving steps, because then you can look in the mirror and you can say, I trust you, I honor you, I respect you, I protect you, I forgive you, I love you unconditionally, first and foremost.
So if you're still doing your belly button, change direction now to the side or up towards your right shoulder. So we're going round in that nice.
Yeah, so you're going into the cecum, up the ascending colon. Now you're moving in an encouraging stimulation within your gallbladder and your liver, which is up just under your right rib here. And then now you're just going to gently move in this direction and keep moving in a clockwise position. And up into your sternum. And then you're going to move into where the stomach and the spleen is. And then down or off to the left side, which is your descending colon, and into your left hip area, which is your sigmoid, and then place the belly button buddy downwards towards your rectum, and then into the belly button itself. And typically, I mean, you could do it for as long as you want. I mean, sometimes with the breathing, you can just really get into this place, and it's just like, whoa, like 10 minutes or 20 minutes has gone by, but it sure feels good. But they recommend it as 5 to 8 minutes. And then if you have things like what Sam was mentioning about cesareans and different surgeries, or you've had laparoscopies and you've had, various punctures, into basically, that's going to create scar tissue, and you can actually start moving, or if you have areas within your intestine that feels that they're just not moving that well, because the large intestine is a muscle, and we want to encourage the flow of blood in that muscle, because we have something called haustral churning. There's haustras, and so that muscle then becomes really freezed up, and because it's lacking circulation, because our bowels aren't moving. And we're creating putrefaction within those regions, and everything just starts to become inflamed, and the integrity of the tissue of the large intestine wall becomes deteriorated. And so therefore we can actually go into various areas really lovingly, gently. If there's some areas that are tender, that's an indication that there's some blockages. Now what we can, go ahead.
Slightly off topic, but we can touch on this, Judy. Thank you for these amazing and informative shows. I love them. Can't wait till we get there for the courses. Sharon, I know you had a heart release. Is this a technique that everyone should have while they're at the palace, or is it specific to each person?
Yes, I mean, when in the whole life coach course, often Daryl will offer to do a heart release, and also the other master practitioners do heart releases, and it really is about. And thank you, Judy, for the question. It really is about whether you're ready for it emotionally, and Daryl's really a master at determining that, and we can really get a good sense of where people are, and it's about whether you're willing to go there, because what happens with the heart is that we have so much heartache for whatever reason, and mine was to do with betrayal, and I encouraged that vibration of betrayal because I was actually betraying myself. I was really good at it, actually betraying myself, because I wasn't looking in the mirror and loving, honoring, and respecting myself. And within that it was actually called a heart drop. The last one, I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but there was levels of heart release that Daryl worked on within the class, and he couldn't actually get right onto my heart spot at the get-go because first of all, A, I wasn't ready for it, and B, they had to kind of lead into it and start opening up around my solar plexus and the calcification that had been created. So what happens with the heart is that there becomes so much heartache, if you want to call it, heartbreak, whatever it is, and that inflammation, because I didn't deal with those emotions, and those emotions got trapped in my heart, and those emotions ended up creating inflammation, and that inflammation was acidity, and my heart actually started to wall itself off, like created like a fist around it. And many of us do that because we have all these different things that we're being, that this person hurt us, or we have losses and grief that hasn't been dealt with properly, and all of these layers that just get layered upon, because there's not a course in our family of how to handle your emotions. And they wouldn't even know how to do it for the most part. And so it's just kind of like, okay, just cry and go into a corner and sob and, throw things around or whatever it is, run down the road or go for a jog, and do all these things, go have a bunch of drinks or fill your face full of pizza or whatever it is that comforts us.
I was taught just to smile and stuff it. Hey?
That's your TMJ.
Yeah, stuff it is right.
No
Yes.
emotional training there.
Yeah, exactly.
Paste a fake smile on
Yeah.
your face and keep going.
So then what happens is that the heart starts to wall itself off, long story short, and then the calcification starts to come in because the inflammation is acidity, and mine actually started to like adhere itself onto the inside of the ribs. And so it's not a must do when you come here. It's something that whether you're willing to do it and willing to let go and ready for it, and it's all about a communication level, because it's not like any of the other Wolf non-surgical treatments. It's a very different treatment because it's about letting go, it's about connecting with the person and really honoring them throughout the process.
It's really beautiful, and like you were saying, so sometimes that does happen in the whole life coach, and Daryl will actually do that, but also when you're doing the non-surgical, you do go through each body part, so there is another opportunity to have a heart release if you're ready, or you're going to get treatments here. And I remember Daryl attempted to do a heart release on me in the first course, but we didn't get that far. We only got as far as my solar plexus, and that was as far as I could go that time.
Yeah.
So
That's very common.
you're never, it was incredible,
Yeah.
and life-changing, but you're never going to be pushed further than you can take at that time, so don't think that there's any pressure in that either.
And thank you for that question. And Jen was asking about if you start at the top, I assume that you mean with the belly button buddy towards the sternum, then yes, you can then go over to the left. So your own left. As we're demonstrating it, it was kind of backwards, right? So you're going over to your own left, and then because you want to make sure that you go clockwise. So wherever you start in the rotation, you want to go clockwise.
And make it a full circle.
What's that?
And make it a full circle.
And make it a
complete
full
the
circle, yes, exactly.
And if you're feeling a bit tight for time in the morning, just like 5 to 7 minutes is perfect, but then if you want to do longer, you can.
Yeah, and that's right, Jane. We are actually opposite on the screen. So when you're going in, so it's your left. So we should say heart side, right? Maybe we'll do that. That's a very good point. So when you're starting in the middle of the belly button, and if you're pushing up towards the sternum, then you want to move the belly button buddy to the heart side, and then go over to the same side, on the heart side, and then
learning
down.
as we go. I
yeah,
love that.
learning as we go. Thank you, Jen. And then down into where the rectum is, and then we're going to go over to the opposite side of the heart, to our right arm, where our righting side, or whatever. Don't necessarily if you're left-handed, right? So and then somebody else had asked about clapping, and you can certainly incorporate the clapping after the belly button. It's all about stimulating the microcirculation, and that's a good point. We'll end up adding the clapping probably next week. We'll just do a bit of a demonstration. I think in every Braveheart Women's Show we should do a little bit of a demonstration on on one of the protocols, and we will do that for sure.
I like clapping in the morning and belly button at night, so everyone gets to try them out and do whatever works for you.
Yes, thank you for your comments. Loving the energy, beautiful. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate your comments. So let's move on. Let's move on to the pelvic activation squats. Now this is such a powerful tool for women as far as an exercise tool. Yeah. So let's get into position, and it's really powerful because not only does it increase the integrity of the strength of the pelvic region, but it's also every exercise that we do, and this is not something that is mainstream. It's about strengthening, toning, and expanding, strengthening and stretching. It's about opening. It's about opening and strengthening, toning and opening. And all of these are about creating tone, but while at the same time, you're actually stretching. Because we so often do exercises that it's all about binding the tissues. And that's what one of the major problems with with what the exercise programs are within society right now. Yeah. We're creating all these little micro tears.
Yeah, constriction.
Yep.
So instead that we're going to teach you to lengthen, strengthen, and then detox and tone.
Yeah. And one of the most like when the toilet was developed, that was one of our biggest attribute for a woman was to be able to squat and go pee and to do our business, because that was keeping us toned and that was keeping us open. So the flower of our existence, which is where birthing happens, is that it kept us really strong but really open. And so now with the anxiety and the stresses and all of this stuff that's going on, is that there's this pregnant woman, or women that you don't even have to be pregnant, but with women within society are really contracted, and especially contracted within that region.
Mm-hmm. I worked as a shift worker for 15 years, and so I sat for 12 hours a day. And if I hadn't already, and I had a little flash of a memory the other day, I think as a little girl I avoided going to the washroom. I avoided passing stool, and so then 15 years on a truck in an industrial situation, I taught my body to not pass stool and to not like passing stool and to not do it. So I have to, on a daily basis, I have to remember to think about listening to my body, listening for those signals, and then when I am on the toilet, I'm having to do some deep breathing to help the process along. So all these exercises are going to help to support and to deal with some of those different ideas and just dishonoring beliefs that we get.
Well, and that's such a good point, because so often I've talked to individuals that have problems with compaction, and they they're compacted. Actually, they can't go to the bathroom, and just like what you talked about, because when you start talking to them about what went on within their lives as children, there was one person that I ended up doing a consult for a while ago, that he lived in a household with 14 adults, one bathroom, and so he was last on the list as far as using the bathroom, and still to this day has such an issue with going to the bathroom, because it was like, you know what, grandma's in there and uncle's in there, and you're just a little kid, you just go off to the side, still to this day. And so those things get inbred within that emotional component, and they get trapped in the tissues. And that's what's so wonderful in regards to the Wolf non-surgical, because those emotions, just like what I talked about with the heart, is that those emotions get trapped because they're not dealt with. Well, how is this little boy going to actually be able to deal with his emotions so that he can understand as to why he's got to hold his poop for like hours and hours and hours?
Yeah.
And that just gets trapped. And so then now you're an adult and you still can't go to the bathroom because it's just, and so now it's like trying to encourage and just try to breathe and just, belly button therapy before you go to the bathroom, just to get yourself into a parasympathetic state.
There you go. So we need an extra belly button in the bathroom for any of us that have this problem. We need one in the bedroom, the living room, and maybe the bathroom, or change up, whichever works with you.
And so the pelvic, absolutely, what a great point. So the pelvic squats allows for the ease of bowel movements as well.
Yeah.
And so these are very important. And so what it's doing is it's strengthening and expanding the pelvic floor. But we also have such a beautiful course that is being offered by Nadia, and that is all about the pelvic floor restoration, and it goes right up into the vaginal canal and works on all the connective tissues and the ligaments within that canal. And that course via Zoom is going to be offered on May 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it can be found in the Dock of Detox under the store. And that pelvic floor restoration course is we do the pelvic activation squats, we do the belly button, and we start incorporating all these wonderful tools. And Nadia traveled to Russia and found out these absolutely amazing, and Sandra and I both took that course, as well as I believe Sam did, and Christine, yes. And it's about then now stimulating so we can now vibrate and increase the energy of that root chakra, which is what the pelvic activation squats do as well. So the squats are one of the most effective ways to keep the flow of energy. And you could do these anywhere, anytime.
Okay,
so let's start off with
what are the girls going to do for us, Sharon?
Yeah, so let's start off with the prayer pose, which creates a really strong foundation. And the prayer pose is one I would suggest. And you can go onto the Dock of Detox, and you can go into the do-it-yourself guide, and there's exercises that can be found in the library, and you can find out all the different poses, and try to incorporate the 3 of them within your regime. And you could do them anywhere. I mean, sometimes I'll just go to the bathroom if I'm in a public area, and I'll just kind of do a few squats, or if we're in a meeting, I'll just do a few squats, and wherever you are.
Point at me with that thing.
I'm going to point at you.
So I'm going to demonstrate some squats.
Okay.
So I'll just show you the first one, which is the prayer squat. So you start with your feet slightly wide and slightly turned out. And you can take your hands into prayer. We're going to show you some alternatives as well. So this is like the full squat, and then we'll show you some alternatives. So from here, just drawing the belly in as a little tuck of the tail, and you're going to let the knees go outwards as you come down, keeping the back as nice and straight as you can, and then placing your elbows into your knees and opening the knees. So you're aiming to have your feet flat on the floor. Don't worry if they're not. You can use little blocks and other bits and pieces, which maybe we'll go through in another show when we're doing a more detailed thing of those bigger alterations. So this is your prayer squat, and you're aiming eventually for 5 minutes, if not longer. But to begin with, just do what you can. If you can't get your elbows here, just rest them on the top of your knees, wherever it is that's comfortable. But you're really aiming to open yourself up, draw the chest up, and have a nice flat back. And then just let your sit bones drop towards the floor.
And there's a few important components here is to really, have a strong foundation before you start to dip into the pose, and really, pull your shoulders back and just really create strength here before you start coming down. And if you can only come down, like Christine can demonstrate.
We'll bring Christine in. So
yes.
I've been working with
so
Christine.
we can do both at the same time
Do you
here.
want to hold
and
on
so
to the thing
you can
first?
actually start to just come down, and if you need to hold on to something and only
Just
go to
wanna make
here,
sure we're
that's
in
all
shot.
good, because at least you're creating toning, you're starting to open things up, and that's what this is about. It's about gentle, loving baby steps. Gentle, loving baby steps. And one thing that's really wonderful about doing these pelvic activation squats is it teaches us patience. So when we go into these poses and we're sitting down in these wonderful poses, then we can just get into this zone, and we can actually just connect with self, connect with our breath, find little areas that maybe need to be wiggled around, and just really find peace within ourselves and patience. And that's what we need more of, is patience. And I know this has taught me a lot of patience, that I've just gone right into this zone. And so I'll let Sandra.
That Lionheart breath whilst you're there, and just really,
Yep.
those little niggles, just breathe through them.
Yep.
So with Christine, when we first started, she wasn't able to do this unassisted, and actually started in the pool. And then we progressed to holding on to something. We were actually holding on to a palm tree, which was lovely. But yeah, just take it away, Christine, into a squat that you could get into. Bring the head up slightly. Lovely. And then we just take it to where you can, you support yourself, and then this is where Christine has got to now, from only being able to do this in the pool, holding onto a bar, to this
And I'll
position.
give you some background about where Christine
back
has
up
come
again.
from her journey when she arrived here at the Ixtapa World
Beautiful.
Healing and Training
Do you wanna
Center.
come
She
forward so
arrived
just
here
do
in September, and she arrived with 2 canes. And those canes were what supported her for many years. How many years was it that you were using 2 canes, Christine? Couple of years.
Couple of years,
It
yeah.
sort of was progressive, like my walking got more difficult, and then
We'll grab the mic. Hang on.
my walking got a lot more difficult, and I started to limp a lot after I injured my knee. So, and then really when I went back into England a couple of years ago, I really couldn't manage without the canes, and that's when I bought them.
And it's been so beautiful. And Christine's been so dedicated and so focused on her healing journey, because she took the whole life coach course, and it rattled her. And I observed many times where I know that she wanted to run, but she couldn't run that fast. So she didn't run, but she was running within her own mind. And it was really beautiful, because she just kept loving herself and encouraging herself and just really moving forward. And look at this. It's beautiful.
It's lovely.
How beautiful.
Really lovely.
That's amazing. Beautiful, Christine. Thank you. And one thing that's within Christine's story, and we were talking about it yesterday, that is that her initial issues with her hips and everything, it wasn't caused from an accident. It was created because she was pooping in her pelvis. So what was happening is that her large intestine was so compacted with poop, because we talk often about the Pooter program, that her large intestine was so compacted with poop, is that it had actually loosened the tight junctions within the cell membranes of the large intestine wall, and it was leaching putrefaction and infection into the pelvic bowl. And that pelvic bowl, what's right next to us here, is our hips. And so the hips started to get inflamed, the connective tissues started to dehydrate and calcify because they were on fire. So they started contorting, and just like throwing a piece of meat on a barbecue. And so it was creating more and more constriction, more and more pain. And so then you were having pain in your hips.
Yeah, and it was calcifying to the point where on an x-ray, it looked like I had a deformity of my hip. That's what they said. And they said that I'd need surgery and a hip replacement. But oh well, you can't have it yet because you're too young. Got to wait 10 years or so. So that was lovely.
Yeah,
It was
really.
actually.
Exactly. You're too young.
So and I didn't want it anyway. So I had to find another way, and that's when I ended up finding Daryl just a couple of years, 9 months ago, I guess.
Beautiful.
Now.
Beautiful.
And I'd been looking online for some time, and pretty soon the first treatment with Sage, I was kind of just noticing and feeling what the treatment was doing. And by the second treatment I was saying to him, so this deformity, is it just calcification? And he's like, pretty much. So
And this is a Braveheart woman. Hear us
She
roar.
really is.
And she's
And-
roaring.
And 2 days ago when I had the last treatment with him on my hip, he said that we were 60% cleared out of the calcification now.
Beautiful.
So we're getting there, we're over halfway.
Beautiful.
Yay.
Beautiful.
So good.
And that takes courage. And that's
It
what
really
this is
does.
all about. It's a journey of courage. when we can dig down deep and we can look in a mirror and we can say, you know what, you've got this, man. You've got it. And I can feel it, I can honor it, I can love it, I can respect it. And that's what Christine has done.
Absolutely.
And I
Well, the
and I
thing is-
applaud you
Thank
for
you.
that.
Well, the thing is, I know that every time I come out of the treatment, something feels different. Something has changed. And then next time something has changed. And all these little changes are adding up.
Yes, they are.
They really
So-
Gentle,
are.
loving baby steps,
Steps,
right? A little bit
exactly.
better every day.
Absolutely.
And it really does take
Yeah.
a commitment from you though, because it is literally weekly
Oh,
that your body
totally.
moves in a different way. And every time I see you, you're like, well, something's different somewhere. And I don't quite know where it is. But, so that in itself is just like your dedication to your healing is so inspirational to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
And how much weight do you think that you've lost since you started this?
I'm not really good at guessing that, and I have no idea
Oh.
what weight I began.
I have pictures.
So, but we have pictures.
yeah, we're going to do a whole series of
Yes.
pictures.
Well, I know
And-
that you had to get a bunch of new dresses.
Yep.
Yes, so we know that.
Yep.
Yeah, and brought down the inflammation. And when you bring down the inflammation, you can also bring down the pain. And that's why so many of our nutraceuticals are so amazing in regards to doing that, because we not only address it from the perfect day strategy associated with the whole food plant-based diet, is that we also look at it from the standpoint of bringing in nutraceuticals, which are high vibrational supplements that will go in and assimilate into the body, not just get thrown into the bloodstream and just find some other place to land. They're actually assimilating into the body themselves and bringing down the inflammation. So we bring down the inflammations in the mind, we bring down the inflammation because of the diet, we bring down the inflammation because of the nutraceuticals, and then we bring down the inflammation because we're opening up those blockages within the body itself with the Wolf non-surgical, which is body work that is nothing like anything else, which addresses scar tissue and displaced calcium and calcification, which was happening within you.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
what happened couple of weeks ago was Sandra was looking at her photos, and we were trying to figure out the date that we'd gone to Ziwa to go to the dentist. And we found out that it was the 15th of December. So she sent me the photo. Just outside of the dentist, there's this mural of these faces. And I'd stood in front, and Sandra had taken a photo of me. And my whole body has changed so much. She was like, oh my God, Christine, you've got to look at this. And then she sent it to me, and I mean, it's just so different. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's being focused.
I've lost a lot of weight.
And that's
since
really what it is. You've got the eye on the
December
prize,
15th.
which is you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, right at the beginning when Daryl first spoke to me, he did say that the goddess was there. She just needed to come out.
Yeah.
So I'm letting her out. She's coming.
You're coming out to play.
She is.
Because that's our authentic self, is our inner child. And your inner child is coming out to
And my
play.
movement is getting
Yeah.
so much better.
It's wonderful to
I
watch
can
you at our
dance
dance
for
parties.
an hour now. I struggled to start with to dance for 3 minutes.
So Sarah had asked a question about the oils and supplements that can be applied to scars or stretch marks after clapping. So Sandra, do you want to answer this, or Sandra?
Yeah, so we've got lots of nice essential oils to put on when we like to use Muscle Restore for any issues in the tissues after Wolf non-surgical or after lots of stretching. The Muscle Restore helps to go in and to
And frankincense.
frankincense.
Frankincense is a really beautiful, moringa oil is a
Yep.
really beautiful oil for the skin.
Yep.
And you can, in clapping and dry brushing and really stimulating the area and then adding those essential oils can really then bring in the nourishing effects of the nutraceuticals. And to go on to something like curcumin cayenne, because curcumin cayenne brings down the inflammation, which then allows for the circulation to be, and the DMSO gel, that's also something that we can add to the mix, and along with the different like essential oils like moringa and the frankincense, and that can really address those areas too as well. You can add C60.
Carla, hi ladies, this is helpful, thank you. I've recently received my nutraceuticals, belly button therapy, and clapper, and this is really helping me get to grips with everything. And Sharon has been my coach so far, so thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome, Carla. Sending you love.
Yeah.
To the UK.
Mary, squatty potties are great to place under the toilet. There's a step on it. You place your feet, enabling you to squat. Yes, exactly. We've heard of those. Anything to get back that squat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get that
where
squat.
Do you wanna
and
head
Jan
now?
has mentioned, I saw her arrive. Wow, how truly amazing. Don't stop, Christine. Congrats. Thank you, Jan.
Nice.
Okay, so now let's move on to the next pose, which is our stretch
We're
pose.
going to do the stretch pose.
So there's three poses within the ultimate pelvic activation squats, which is the prayer pose, and now we're going to do the stretch pose, and then there's the hug pose. So the stretch pose now really works within the lower back region as well, and I'll let Sam take it away.
Sure, so this one you're going to have your feet more hip width apart, so not quite so wide, and straight forwards if you can. And again, it depends on your fitness level. So I'm going to show you the standard full squat, and then we'll talk about some alternatives as well. So you just gently come down into your squat, and just find your comfortable position. And you can have your hands on the floor to begin with the fingers just stretching forwards. And you want to think about your tail dropping under slightly. And we're going to use the arms as a counterbalance. And this is why this is a good one to do before the hug, because it's not quite as tricky in the balance. So once you feel comfortable and you're really grounding through the big toe joints, you're going to just gently drop the head and just find that space of balance. And then we're going to slowly lift the arms. If you feel really wobbly, keep the hands down quite low so you can rebalance yourself. But if you're feeling good and balanced and you're in your breath, you're going to lift the arms up to around shoulder level, and you're reaching forwards with the arms as you're reaching backwards with the
So what
sit
you're doing with
bones.
this pose is that you're stretching out the lower back too as well. So the more you can pull over this way, and you can actually bring your feet wider apart, that then will allow you to have a little bit more ability to put your feet flat on the floor. And
Yeah.
then you can really pull. And the more you pull out with your arms, the more stretch that you get along the lower back region. So it really is a beautiful stretch pose, and you can really just feel it within your shoulder, like within the trapezius, and all along the shoulder blade itself, and then all the way up into the arms.
It comes
and,
under the
and the ultimate
armpits.
goal is to get your heels flat on the floor.
I am a work in progress, as we
Yes.
all are. My heels, when I first started Pilates, were up here, and now they're down there. So give me another couple
Yeah.
of months.
Because when you widen out your knees and you have a little bit wider, then you have a place for your abdomen to actually fall in between your legs. And if your stance is too narrow, then you're actually resting on top of your legs. So I find it's much better to have your stance a little bit wider, and then you can actually like really stretch out into that area, and you have a place for your abdomen to actually drop into. These are really amazing poses because we're expanding and we're toning and all of those areas. So we're opening up. Brilliant poses for pregnant women, because what you want to do is you want to strengthen, but you also want to expand, because we want to have the ability to bring life into this world. And that's why Kegels aren't I mean, they're okay, but they actually only work on the outside. It does not filter up into the canal of the vaginal region, which is what we want to do as far as strengthening. The Kegels just work on the outer edge, so we're actually creating more contraction in regards to being able to open up our bodies. And I feel that we end up getting more episiotomies because we've created such a tight sphincter,
Yeah.
and then it's not actually allowing that to expand. So with the pelvic floor restoration course that we have, as far as building up all the way up those tiny ligaments and connective tissues, all the way up to the neck of the uterus, and with the fact that for the most part our large intestine isn't functioning properly, and we're leaching toxins into the pelvic girdle itself and the pelvic bowl, we're deteriorating the tissues from the infection and the putrefaction that's actually going into that region. And when we're deteriorating those tissues, the integrity of it is actually reduced. So we even need more circulation and more blood flow into those regions, more oxygen, so that even more of a reason to start really expanding ourselves and opening up in diaphragmatic breathing, opening up those lungs so we can increase the amount of oxygen within the tissues. Because all cells, the cellular level, because it's all about the cells, it's all about the oxygen, it's all about the lymph, it's all about the blood flow. That's what creates a healthy cell. And we need water, structured water. It's so important because we need to nourish those cells so that then they work at the most optimum level and then they can get into the tissues. But if you have a bunch of contracted tissues, it's like bump, bump, thump. Those little worker bees, which are red blood cells, they can't get into the tissues, and then when they do get in, they're lacking oxygen and nutrients and valuable properties associated with creating healthy tissue. So when we're doing the pelvic activation squats, that married with the pelvic course that's coming up on May 6th, 7th, and 8th via Zoom, those properties associated with these squats and the tools associated with increasing that vaginal region as far as the tone and the blood circulation, then it's like pow. We're like knocking it right out of the park.
We really are, and just it's so important to be able to let go in that way, because we've been taught to, especially with like pelvic floor work and what some doctors have been sort of prescribing you do, which is really not great, is that just pull everything in and up and hold it. We've got to be able to release as well and just to let go. And this is the whole thing. If you're in the anxiety, fight and flight, everything's really tight. And if you're thinking about what the doctor's saying to you about pulling everything in and up, we're not releasing and letting go. So these squats are just super important for you to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good.
Absolutely.
Should we do the hug?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jody, I do belly button clamping, C60. I take Moringa daily, but yesterday I pulled a muscle in my quad. How to heal from this? Do I rest and no movement and massage, clamping, or will clamping be contradicted in a muscle tear?
So the muscle tear, and what was the person's name?
Jody.
So it was in the quad, and she's taking C60.
Belly button, clamping, C60, Moringa daily.
Okay. So I don't know how soon it was. Just recently she's done this? Like, is it
Yesterday.
Yesterday. So it's probably still really tender. And what we want to do is we want to encourage the circulation. I mean, if you have anything like the Pain Away or the DMSO gel, you could put the DMSO gel on the region, and then you can add the Pain Away because the DMSO gel increases the circulation within the region, and then the Pain Away will go on there and it will soak right in, and it will really reduce the inflammation. And what I would do is that, I mean, you are clapping, and I gather that she's clapping it, and you just really want to keep nurturing that region, and really, because what'll happen is that all of these fluids will go and they'll try to heal the region, but then they'll get, like, it'll start inflammation. And the curcumin cayenne, I would highly suggest that you start taking fairly large dosages if you have it of the curcumin cayenne. You just want to bring down that inflammation, and I would take like one every hour for up to 6 a day, and then just really be kind to it, but you need to move it. You need to keep moving it so that it doesn't get stiff. Because so often when we get injured, then we just sit and we get stiffened up. So if you can get into a pool or get into some region, as long as you're not overusing it, we just want you to get things moving. And that's what it's all about. It's about the circulation. Do the breathing, do the belly button therapy, do the clapping, and you can actually, put the C60 on it, the DMSO with the Pain Away, and the curcumin cayenne, and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. That should pretty much cover it.
Jody again, I used DMSO gel on my knee, on my tennis elbow last year, but it irritated and burnt my skin.
Well, you probably used it too often.
Yeah.
So-
or you try to really rub in the gel, and we don't do that with
and
the
a
gel.
very thin layer. So
Yeah.
if you have sensitive skin, then that means that there's toxins coming out of your skin. So it's more of a issue with the large intestine.
Maybe the DMSO rose.
Yeah, the rose, if you have the rose, you can do that. But what you can do is you can put the DMSO gel on for a day or two, and then when the skin starts getting irritated, then you can back off and use the rose, because the rose is, the DMSO gel is about 10 times stronger than the rose cream.
Yeah.
And so you could just use that, or just use the pain away.
Yeah.
If the DMSO gel is too strong for you,
And keep the gel just for bony areas.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you could actually add the DMSO gel with the C60. You could mix that together, because the C60 is going to buffer down the irritation to the skin, but it's still going to allow some of the DMSO gel to absorb within the tissue. So I would mix the two of them and then put that on the skin too as well, along with the pain away. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay,
Sharon.
so we've done the hug, or we've done the stretch. Now we're going to do the hug pose. So the third pose, which is one of the more challenging balance poses, because it requires more deeper core concentration and also adding the bonus of the ankle movement. So the hug pose, it's something that, and any one of these poses you can, well, except for the hug really, you can actually use something to balance on. Even the stretching pose, you can actually do that. But with the hug pose, it's pretty difficult too.
You can put, if you had a yoga block, you could put the yoga block underneath
Oh,
your
okay.
heels if you're
Yeah.
finding it like
Yeah.
tricky. If your heels are off like mine and you're finding the balance really tricky, just put a little block underneath just to help you balance a little bit. It's probably
Yeah.
the only modification we could find with this
Excellent.
one. So the hug pose, you're starting in a similar position as the stretch pose, and then we're just going to bring one hand then the other up and just drop the head down. And just come into like the shape of a ball. Think about the collarbones widening, dropping away from your ears, and settle in.
Yeah, and this is about concentration, and this is about patience, and this is about hugging yourself in a loving, honoring way. We're so busy in our lives, and then when we take, and these poses don't take long. I mean, initially you could hold them for a minute, and so each one of them you could hold them for a minute. That's like 3 minutes. You take some breaths, you do some belly button for 5 to 8 minutes. You know, within 15 or 20 minutes, you've just increased the circulation to your pelvic region. And I'll tell you that the combination of the belly button with these pelvic activation squats and the pelvic expander, which we'll show you shortly, that is like the holy grail of healing. We are now opening things up. We're opening up our body. We're strengthening and toning, but we're expanding. And so often within our exercises routine, it's all about contraction, and we start contracting and contracting and contracting. And that six-pack that so many people thrive for within this fitness community, that's actually freezing our diaphragm.
Yeah.
So we can't actually take a deep breath. So that really is a fallacy. We don't want to have a six-pack. We kind of want to have a one-pack. We want to have, which would be the Buddha breath belly.
I love that. I must
But it's
admit-
talking about inflammation. I mean, we can have tone. It's all about the core. We need to increase the strength of the core. And that's what this is about. Because we don't want the core to be on the floor. We want the core to actually carry us so that we have the strength and the tone. But we want it to be an expansion toning model,
Absolutely.
not in a contraction toning model. And that's really what these are all about.
And it's coming into the deeper layers of your abdominals as well, not just the surface area, because I find I've worked with a lot of PTs and like high fitness, high intensity people, and they've got a really strong surface layer, but the deeper muscles are not, they're just not there. So therefore their internals are not working properly. So, and just another little point about these stretches is you're going to feel it in your ankles, and it's going to massively increase your ankle mobility. And then after you've done your squats, you can just have a little turn through the ankles and up on the toes to release that before you come out of them. So just be a bit mindful of your ankles as well.
Nice. Thank you, Sam.
You're so welcome.
And when Sam was mentioning about the external layers of the muscles being strong and not the internal layers are all those little finite connective tissues, and that's what keeps us, because that's the core strength. It's about the center of us strength. So we're centering ourselves within our strength, and that's where we we create the strength of the body. And the outside are the larger muscles, and that's the ones that we see when we're doing you know, whatever it is. But it's about that. It's about those connective tissues that are holding our beautiful structure together. The ligaments, the tendons, the muscles, all of them working together. Not just having these bound up, you know, high muscles that are like, whoa, look at how big my biceps are. But it's about that, the connective tissues, creating a strong foundation. And that's what this is all about here at the Ixtapa World Healing and Training Center. It's about we're trying to get down to our foundation, our authentic self, which is our inner child. That's where we came from.
Okay, we have a question from Carolyn. Hello, ladies. I know a lady that is 65 that has had 2 operations for 2 prolapses. She has the start of a 3rd prolapse. Her doctor told her that he would not operate again. Sharon, would the course on May 6th, 7th, and 8th be beneficial to my friend, Julie? Julie used to be a nurse in an aged care. Please advise.
And it's a prolapse of
Just saying a prolapse. So
A
she's
prolapse
had 2
of her
surgeries of a
large
prolapse.
intestine, of the transverse colon.
And a 3rd one coming, the doctor's saying he won't do another surgery.
Well, what she really needs to do, if it's a prolapsed large intestine, is it prolapsing like her uterus and things? I mean, I'm not really sure. It's not
Yeah,
clear.
it doesn't say.
So if it's the prolapse of the large intestine, now the transverse colon has now dropped. So you can have 2nd and 3rd degree. If it's that prolapsing, well, then she really needs to clean up her large intestine. Now, if it's prolapsing of the uterus or the bladder or any of those organs, absolutely hands down, this course on May 6th, 7th, and 8th would be really, really paramount for her. Because 49% of the female population over the age of 50 drips urine.
There is a device that we use after we use a technique to help the brain make a connection to the proper muscles that are going to be strengthened. Then they will also teach you how to insert a device. The only time that we need to be a little bit we need to wait just a little bit before we do that is if the vaginal wall is actually breaking down itself. You need to do those muscle exercises until the tone of that vaginal cavity comes back, and then you can go ahead and put that device in. But the ladies that's their expertise, and so they will guide everybody through that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, every female, I think, needs to be in this course, and we need to be learning about getting this tone back, because it is the holy grail of everything about being woman, and so spirit, soul,
Absolutely.
and body will be improved.
Yeah. And the surgeries, if she was having prolapsing, I would imagine that she ended up getting mesh, and I don't know, and we need more information. But if there's mesh that has been put in those regions to pull up these things that are basically falling out of the person, and that's because the first of all, the large intestine needs to be addressed, because they're most likely pooping in their pelvis, so we're deteriorating the integrity of all the tissues, so things are starting to fall because of that. And then what ends up happening is if there's surgery done, and most likely they'll want to do another surgery because they're putting mesh in there, and you'd have to connect that mesh to tissues that's already completely deteriorated.
Yeah.
So how is it going to have any strength to hold the mesh, let alone hold up whatever organ is prolapsing, if it's your bladder or uterus or whatever it happens to be? So then now that mesh is not being held into place, and so then they know that basically is rotting at the core.
Yeah.
And the course will help, but she needs to get a perfect day consult. Really important to get the strategies associated with regaining the integrity of those tissues, getting things cleaned up so she's not dumping putrefaction within that pelvic girdle. And it's really, really important. And so I would highly advise that she contacts one of our consultants or phones into the doc of detox.com and finds out this information.
So a follow-up comment. Yes, it is the uterus. Thanks. I'll pass this course information on to my friend Julie. I did tell her that she should get a perfect day consultation. So you just go to the store, click on bodywork, and you'll find the information for the course there. You'll find the price, and you'll find that what all is included in that course as well.
And another thing just to mention, when Sandra was mentioning, which is a very good point, about the tissue integrity up that vaginal canal, that the device wouldn't be able to be put in. And this, you know, this is just a little bit of a balloon device, so we have something because muscles need
Resistance.
to work up against
Yep.
something in order to be able to feel them. And if the integrity of the tissue walls is really like broken down, then she'll need vaginal infusions, and she'll need to start restoring that integrity of those, of the walls of the vaginal area before she could do a course like that. And not to panic, because there's going to be other courses offered. And so if she can't, if this isn't a good opportunity for her, so perfect day consultation before that course would be really, really important. And my guesstimate is that, well, I would pretty much guarantee that she'll need to do the vaginal infusions and really need to increase the integrity of the tissues within that region as well.
And
first.
maybe even taking it as far as getting a PTT, getting one of the master trainers to come to your house. Because if you do have mesh implanted, that's not coming out. And so you would need to have regular wolf non-surgical done. It just depends on how quickly your body's going to start trying to recover up that mesh. Every 3 weeks, every month, you need a friend or a family member to go in with wolf non-surgical and help to break up some of that, because like I said, the mesh isn't coming out now, so we just have to do some regular maintenance. But
yeah, and you can certainly
we've
go
got
to
the knowledge.
personaltreatmentandtraining.com, and you can find out all the information there,
Yeah.
and it's a really great way.
People, children as young as 7 have good, oh, hey, I think I can do that. And they plunk down and use their elbow, and it's an easy technique to learn. So you don't need to feel like you have to be a chiropractor or something,
Exactly.
with years of knowledge to use your elbow and help each other. That's one of the best things I think about being a part of this, is that it teaches every single one of us that we have the power, we have the knowledge, we have the creativity power, we have the intuition. We just simply need to learn some of these basic rules of our body, learn these techniques, and help set yourself and your family members free.
And come down to the World Healing and Training Center.
Yeah.
Go to the braveheartnation.com and come down and take a course, and come down and get treatments, and live off the juice bar, and really turn your health around. Because when you have situations like that, where this individual is, the tissue integrity within her pelvic region has really been deteriorated. And so she needs to take massive personal action and really decide that she's going to turn this around. And she can, but it's going to take massive personal action. And when you're in a situation in a home environment that other people are, not necessarily on the same path as you are, is that to come down to the World Healing and Training Center and take 2 months to 3 months and really just zero in. I mean, look at how far Christine has come from September, and she's unveiling this beautiful playful soul that's all sitting inside of there, and not being wreaked in pain, and not being becoming identified by her 2 canes. I mean, this is what ends up happening. She's being identified by her honoring herself in self-love,
And loving
unconditional
our
love.
body.
And what's that?
I said that we need to love our body,
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Like, even if we have pain, just love the pain.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you got this. Yeah, love it's everything.
Because the pain is your friend. It's actually telling you a story. And so when you listen to the story and you actually decide what you're going to do about the outcome of the story, well, then that's the key.
Yeah,
Change the story,
exactly.
right? So let's talk about the pelvic expander. The pelvic expander will transform your pelvis and abdomen.
It really can.
Yes.
And when you first do it, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm going to show you how we do the pelvic expander, and I can get into it quite easily. And then we're going to show you Christine, and it's taken us a wee while to get Christine to come onto the pelvic expander and how it can be modified. So this is...
And this will help transform your ovaries, your uterus, your bladder, your hips, stimulating lymph and blood flow. And it's like I said, it's the holy grail of healing. When you start incorporating the belly button therapy, the ultimate pelvic squats, and the pelvic expander, now you're just incorporating this beautiful healing center. And then you add the clapper And
I
you're
actually use the clapper whilst I'm pelvic expanding as well, because I can now do a good 20 minutes on each leg. I started at 5 minutes because it was really uncomfortable to begin with. And this is our pelvic expanding device, but you can do this with your leg up a wall. And maybe I'll do a video actually from home and show you the different areas that you can find in your house to achieve this if you haven't got one of these. So we're looking to take one leg up to the ceiling. Now, if you can't get that leg straight because you've got tight hamstrings, you can just bend it to begin with and get to where you can, especially for guys. This is quite tricky. But eventually you'll get your leg all the way up. And then your leg that is going towards the floor, you're just going to allow that to drop down, and it's going to really open out your hip flexors. And you want to let that go as far as possible, which is why it's important to be up quite high, because you can let this leg really, really drop. And then I have a little think about my sit bone of this leg dropping down towards the bed and the heel reaching up. So you're getting a lovely stretch in the back of the leg. But this is the important bit where you're just opening out the pelvis. And then you just come into a nice place of relaxation. You can have your hands on your belly if you want to. I've done belly button therapy here as well, because I've found with the leg that is extending, you can get deeper into those areas on that side as well. So it just gives you another level of deepness with your belly button therapy. Have you got anything you'd like to add?
And you can also put your foot up on a chair or something, or, as you're working into the various levels of expanding this. So, I mean, if you need to do something like this, or you need to have something that's a little bit lower, you can just build up from there, and then you can start dropping it and dropping it.
Definitely have a chair to begin with if you've not done this sort of thing
like even
before.
there's a little hook here. See if you put this down here.
Because you can just,
like
you
there,
can find different
right?
levels of expansion and opening. So, and that's, and eventually 20 minutes. And your leg might go a little bit numb, and that's okay. You just give it a little shake afterwards. So that's how you get in when you're at my sort of level and out. And then we're just going to show you Christine. It took us some monkeying around to begin with, but we got there. So just to show you that we can do this. And when we first started, I was helping Christine with everything coming up. And now she just wiggles herself in, which is great. And she's hooked her heels on the end of the bed here for support. And then we're going to slowly take the leg up and find where is comfortable. Just let your ankle relax. Let your ankle relax a little bit. And your shoulders. Lovely. So this leg is up. And then we're going to take this leg onto the bolster. So this is where we started for Christine. How's that feeling today? That's good. Awesome. Then we remove the bolster, so just gently lift. And now we're at the chair. Okay. How's that feeling? Good.
And it really is about expanding in like we're opening up this region, because we're trying to open up the actual pelvic region. And so as we're opening up in the hip flexors and within the actual, so it's not about trying to get to a flat point. It's really about trying to get the buttocks to the bulls, to here, and then you can bend your knee.
So I just wanted to say that the other thing that I want to do, and I wonder, I'm contemplating doing, is because of Sage is now starting to go working on my hip flexors. So when I do the belly button therapy, I end by using the hip flexors, the belly button on the hip flexor. And it just helps to kind of stimulate it in a way that helps before the treatment, but I try to do that daily as well. And I was just realizing just this moment that I could actually do it when I'm on the hip flexor, because that would really help me to get into that point. Getting into the hip flexors and the knees have been quite the challenge, and that's only happened this week and last week. So I'm finding new ways of using the tools that we have to help me. I also clap those areas a lot as well, especially, well, every day, but I have to clap them a lot the day that I'm having the treatment as well. That really helps.
Do you want to try the belly button now? Do you mean in your hip
And
flexors?
that's, it
Absolutely,
really
let's
is
do it.
about gentle, loving baby steps. And it's about finding what works for you. It's really about how we want to guide ourselves and love ourselves and honor ourselves and respect ourselves. That's what this is all about. And as she moves into using the belly button area or the belly button tool within the hip flexor, she can now start opening that region up and letting it expand and allowing it to actually release. Because, emotionally and physically, we start contracting, and it all starts with the emotions. It's the invisible creating the physical. And so there was issues with Christine in her tissues that were created from a psychological that became a biological. And that's where it all started. And we become so inundated with just focusing on the biological that we miss many times the huge component associated with the psychological.
So the other thing as well is when I'm getting a bit that hurts a little bit or is a little bit of a knot or something, I'm trying to really focus on that part now to work that out so that when Sage gets in there next week, it'll be better. I'll have done something towards it to help it. So everything you can do yourself helps your therapist to get in there as well. So we're helping ourselves even more. I'm constantly experimenting with the belly button therapy tool and the clapper because I find that I just try different things and if it works. And the other thing is with the clapper, I will smack that area. I will clap that area good and as much as I can. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes to do it. I found using the clapper really scary and hard to start with. And now I've got a lot better with it. And I'm even able to do it on the hip flexors, which to start with was a no-go area. Another area I'd like to show you, I've just got to
Well, and
switch
what
hands.
happens with the tissues, they become bound. And when she's talking about Sage getting in there, what we're actually talking about is we're talking about wolf
Oh, the wolf
non-surgical.
non-surgical, yeah.
So when we have the connective tissues and we have inflammation, then the inflammation creates a fire within the cells because it's on fire, inflamed, it's on fire. And that fire ends up creating acidity and it starts to dehydrate the tissues because it is on fire. So we're not drinking enough water, we're on fire emotionally, we're dripping adrenaline into the system because it starts with an image and then the thought creates an emotion and the emotion creates a frequency, which then the brain, the chemist, starts dumping different hormones into the body. If it's positive, it's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. If it's negative, it's histamine, adrenaline, or cortisol. So what happens when we have emotions that haven't been dealt with, and maybe she had a difficult time, it was maybe sexually traumatized or wasn't really honoring herself as far as how she had her divine femininity or whatever it happens to be, childbirth issues, contraction around the fact when she gave birth, whatever it happened to be. So then those emotions get trapped within the tissues and they start to bind and those tissues become dehydrated and calcified, and the wonderful connective tissue should be striated like this. And then that binding from dehydration and calcification and inflammation starts to create a solid environment that's contorted and twisted. And so when she's talking about Sage going in there, she's talking about the wolf non-surgical, where we go in there, we do our body work, and we gently open up those fibers and gently find the weak part within the fibers, and we open them up because they've been lacking blood flow, oxygen, and lymph. And then once the blood flow and oxygen and lymph happens within those tissues, is that bam, that tissue goes back to supple tissue that is now healthy tissue. And now it has flow. It has the ability to have movement. It isn't contracted. It is now in an expansion mode, and therefore you don't have stiffness and you don't have joint problems because you can now have the movement. You can have the flow with the movement. So that's what the belly button does, and that's what the wolf non-surgical does, and that's what these various exercises do. It's opening up the tissues. But at times we can't just do it with our own regime, that we need to go in there with the wolf non-surgical and actually do the body work and actually open up the tissues so that we can now have those tissues convert back to healthy tissue.
That's right. And so what I'm doing is I'm really just preparing the way so that when Sage goes in with his loving elbows, I call them, because then he can work it even more. But if I've prepared the area and I've got the circulation up with the clapping and the belly button therapy, that really helps. And as I say, I've been experimenting, and I found that on my IT band as well, I had a lot of problems there. And so again, I just go in, I find a knot, I work that knot. And you can do this whether you're on the pelvic expander or whether you're just sat in a chair on a bed, it doesn't matter. But obviously if you're on the pelvic expander, then you're just getting both jobs done at the same time, which saves you time.
Yeah, and when we get the wolf non-surgical, there's good healing fluids, because in order to heal we need fluids to the tissues, and it can create a backload of the healing tissues or the healing fluids, which would create inflammation. So when we get the wolf non-surgical, a bunch of healing fluids goes to the region. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you,
and
lovely.
it goes to the region, and so then we want to encourage movement within those tissues so that we don't have a bunch of pooling of the lovely healing fluids that are going into the region, now healing it. So we want to keep the movement, because it's all about movement. It's about going with the flow emotionally, going with the flow physically, going with the flow spiritually, and so we can now start flowing and creating new vigor within our life. We don't need to start contracting like Grandpa. Oh yeah, Grandpa used to be 5'8" and now he's 5'4". He's just shrinking. Well, he's shrinking because he's dehydrated, and all the connective tissues are starting to compact and starting to pull. And he's now gone from a cane, from sort of shuffling along to a cane, and then to a walker, and then to a wheelchair. We don't need to do that. We can open up the tissues. We can open up the flow. We can go onto a perfect day diet, perfect day strategy, and we can now allow those tissues to have movement in them. And that's what it's all about. And then when there's movement, then there's vigor, and the vigor comes from the fact that we now have vibration. The body is now vibrating, and there's a flow going on within the system itself. And that's what it's all about. It's all about the good vibration. And the vibration needs to have open tissues in order for the blood flow to happen. Okay? Is there some more questions,
We've got any more
Sandra?
questions, Sandra,
Sure.
and we'll
Yep.
come down.
Thank you, ladies.
Julie, I have bunions that are so severe I can't wear closed-toe shoes. Because of the pain. Besides the DMSO frankincense pain away, clamping, what else can I do to correct my bunions and straighten out my toes? I miss hiking, walking in nature so much. Heck, I miss being active all the way around. So we can do some one-shot therapy on it yourself.
Yeah.
You could do lots of physical work to help break up that bunion itself. And then go ahead and apply all those items and throw a little Band-Aid on overnight, and that'll help to soften it up. And just keep doing this on a regular basis, doing your own work on it, and putting the gel and the Band-Aid on. It's also would be great if call in and maybe we can find you a wolf non-surgical person to come and to do some treatments on that. And then let's get you active all the way around, just like you'd like.
Well, and Julie, with bunions, it's just calcification within the joint. So to go on to the perfect day diet, I mean, no flour, no sugar, and no dairy. I mean, that's where you would start. And then the one-shot therapy, and you can go in and you can actually find videos on Daryl doing the one-shot therapy and using the DMSO gel and putting it on the actual site itself for a few days, and then going in there, because it will start to soften it. And it's just calcification within that region. And the feet carry a lot of calcification because it's all about where the sand falls to the bottom of the ocean. And so the calcification builds up within the feet, and that's really what ends up happening along those lines. So let's just move along here and just talk about the pain-free, which we talked about a few times, the pain-free pelvic masterclass, which unleash your feminine power. So to reserve your seat, May 6th, 7th, and 8th, that's the one that's happening by Zoom, and there will be one that will be in person here at the World Healing and Training Center after the Wolf Non-Surgical course completes itself, and I believe that's around May the 22nd or something along those lines. So we have the Wolf Whole Life Coach course, and we have the Perfect Day diet, or the Perfect Day strategy, where you can call in and you can look up at the docofdetox.com, and we can search through the consultant that resonates with you. There's a bio within each consultant, and you can book your Perfect Day strategy, because it's not just a strategy, it's a supported strategy. So we're not just doing the Band-Aid approach to health here. We're actually giving you a supported strategy that you have lifetime support from one of our consultants, that we can guide you along your way of realignment. Because you don't have a disease, you have a realignment issue. Any symptoms are actually a realignment issue. It's just a symptom of being out of alignment. And what we do is that we encourage you to take massive personal action and realign yourself. The body is meant to heal. The body is meant to heal. And what we need to do is we need to take massive personal action. And one of the core steps, one of the first steps that we encourage people to do is to book a Perfect Day consultation. And we have so many other, like Sandra was mentioning early, the personal treatment and training, we have the nutritional support, we have the emotional support, we have it all. And that's why these strategies work. I mean, we have about an 87% success rate? 87%, we're proud of that. We are so proud of that. So the nutritional and emotional consultations, we do both. We do nutritional consultations and we do emotional consultations, and it's all based on combining the emotional with the physical. And if we don't approach it from the physical or from the emotional perspective and the physical perspective, then it's not a full rounded strategy, and that's why we call it a strategy. And I know for my own self, and I'm sure that many others here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So many people just want some guidance, just want a structure to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I mentioned earlier is courage is key. And I don't know where we are as far as our clock goes. What time is it?
We are almost at 2 hours.
Almost at 2 hours. So we'll have to get our our journeys another time. We will. I mean, we're here every week. So today we ended up doing it on Friday because we were supposed to do it in the tent here yesterday, and time just got away on us. And it's a never-ending, changing environment here, and we just go with the flow. And so we actually had it today here on Friday. So we'll be back with you next week, which is on Thursday for the Braveheart Women's Show. And next week we're actually going to be doing the what are we doing next week? Oh, the Perfect Pain-Free Pregnancy, and that will be at 2 p.m. Central Time, so join us. We'll be talking about the pregnancy and how we can encourage mothers to have a birth that can be the ideal birth, 30 to 45 minutes. And if we start incorporating the pelvic squats, the pelvic expander, the Perfect Day strategies, and the Wolf Non-Surgical, and you can come and we can actually come to you and do the personal treatment and training courses and teach you and your partner to do work on each other, and him do work on you lovingly and caringly, and encourage you to have this beautiful birth of your child in such a loving manner, where it's all about expansion, it's all about opening yourself and allowing this beautiful spirit being to come into this world. And that's something that we could come and one of our master trainers can come to where you're located and teach you and your partner all about how you can have a perfect pain-free pregnancy. Or you could come down here to the Ixtapa World Healing and Training Center, and we'd love to have you. This is an environment of encouraging growth and encouraging healing. It's a beautiful place. So she believed she could, so she did. And that's what I did, is I believed I could, and so I did. So for 35 years, I've been studying health, natural health, and trying to realign myself. And now I'm here in this beautiful place, living my passion and my purpose, and many of us are doing that. And this is such a beautiful thing to do, and it's about believing in self. So please believe in yourself. because that's the only person you really can believe in, because that's the only person that you have any form of control over is yourself. And so let's just focus on self and mind our own business, because we can, if we believe in self, anything can happen. Then we vibrate.
And we just need a little bit. We just need a little sliver of belief and take that step out. And you know, the next day you're going to believe a little bit more, and you're going to believe a little bit more. So we don't actually have to believe that we can be a movie star or an opera singer or this or that. We just got to believe we got enough for today, and then tomorrow we'll have enough for tomorrow, and we'll keep building on that.
Yes, so we need to go to Braveheart. I've lost all my notes here as far as the upcoming courses are concerned. I have no idea where they went, so I cannot actually give those to you. So the Whole Life Coach course starts here tomorrow at the Ixtapa Healing and Training Center.
Until May 8th, and then 2 days off, and then the Wolf Non-Surgical gets taught for 12 days.
Yes,
So
exactly.
We'll
And then,
just wrap it up then. If we don't have any more notes, we're just going to
yeah,
say...
and there's another one that's starting. You can go to the braveheartnation.com and you can look up the various course dates. There'll be another one starting towards the end of May. That will be the Whole Life Coach, and then followed by the Wolf Non-Surgical, and then there'll be another course of the Whole Life Coach starting at the end of June. And those typically run for about 21, 22 days, and you come out of those courses as a certified whole New World practitioner. So we are creating a global march of self-empowerment. So by training and certifying these individuals, and they're becoming master trainers when they do 3 courses. But after 1 course, they can go home and they have the skills. And like Daryl said, he will put them up against any naturopath or any health practitioner, that they have the skills that they can move somebody forward and remove these physical and emotional blocks from themselves and really start living a life of vigorous vitality. And that's what this is all about. Let's have the courage so we can do this. Right, Sandra?
That's right.
And do you want to finish off with the Braveheart Oath?
Not with it out on the camera, no.
Well, I will do it then today. Okay, this is my version of it. Oh, I don't need that. This is my version of it. And I wake up every morning and I look in the mirror and I say to myself, good morning, sunshine. Today and every day, from the moment that I rise until I gently close my eyes, I will honor you. I will trust you. I will protect you. I will respect you. I will forgive you. And I will love you unconditionally. First and foremost, before anyone or anything else, so help me God. Because I am, I can, I am healed, I am love, I am a Braveheart goddess. Hear me roar. Let's roar, ladies. Let's do this. Let's create this global march, and let's regain our femininity, because you can do this and you've got this. Thank you so much. And 3, 2, 1, we love you, and